What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. I did not want this orientation, but I guess this is what we're gonna get. Give me 1 second here. Let me make sure my all chat messages are visible. There we go. Good morning, Mr. Fogel, Bronx Smash. How you doing? Welcome, guys. I hope you guys are having a wonderful morning. It is super summertime in California, Los Angeles. We're cooking in here, guys. It's getting rough out here to be out in the wilderness. I found a spot of shade in my sketchy looking van. So I hope you guys enjoy that. But before we get into it, make sure what does that say? 1 month gift and access. Allow gifts. Why wouldn't I allow gifts? Allow gifts. I'm pressing the button. Sorry, I just got this pop-up that just popped up on my thing for some reason. Anyway, before we get into this video, make sure you guys join the Discord community. The link is in the description below. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the podcast, Tabletop Cyberpunk. And make sure you guys follow me on social media at JonJonTheWise. And of course, if you want to support, the best way to support is to go to patreon.com/JonJonTheWise, where you guys can support the channel. All right. Yeah, it's been really fun. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, are you in your Corpo extraction van? What's up, Mr. Skull Baby? Yeah, exactly. This is the van that I use to kidnap people for ransom. On Monday, we recorded Under the Crimson Sky. Of course, we were plagued with issues right away. Things that were working previously exactly the same as they should have been were now not working. So we had to make do, but we figured it out in the end. The only problem is we only got to play for like an hour and a half, hour 40 minutes, which, as you guys know, is not enough time to play Cyberpunk. It's not enough time to play any tabletop games unless you're doing some kind of skirmish game. But yeah, so that was the bummer of it. But we did have a great session. It was probably one of the best sessions I've ever had. It started off like with a bang, and I don't want to spoil it. It's pretty crazy. It started off like literally it just started with a bang, and it was really fun. It was really fun to go through it. We had great interactions, and yeah, 3 hour minimum, as Mr. Fogel says. That is exactly it. Like if we don't get 3 hours in, it's not worth it. What's up, Blank? Good morning. Thank you for joining us for this live chat. But yeah, other than that, it was good. Bronx says, I remember playing for a whole weekend's Friday night to Sunday afternoon. Oh man, those were the days. See, that's the thing about me growing up, going to high school and stuff like that. I was so worried about being popular that I didn't make friends with the nerds. So my high school experience was not tabletop gaming, which is like crazy to me now because that's literally like all I would rather do. And I just didn't do it growing up. I had all that free time. I waited till I have a kid and a full-time job and other hobby to start doing my hobbies. And Jesus, talk about like worst timing. But once my kid gets older, things should be easier. I'll have more free time and stuff like that. But yeah, back then doing all-nighters. We were doing video game all-nighters though. No, the shallowness bites your bum. Yeah. But the thing about it is I was doing all-nighters with video games. We were playing all kinds of stuff like that. Imagine having free time, says Jimmels. I know. And we played video games till like 6 in the morning. There was a lot of like we did Company of Heroes. We did Warcraft, Starcraft. What else did we play into the night? I don't remember exactly what, but we were just RTSs were big. It was like back then when Blizzard was awesome. Halo LAN parties were the best. Yeah, Halo. Oh my god, that was amazing too. What a revolutionary game! It was much like GoldenEye back in the day. GoldenEye 64. That shit was insane. playing that in the 64 era, like it made FPSs like something that people would want to do. Me and my buddy were unemployed and living out of my bugs, so we would couch surf when we would pull all-nighters in Denny's. Jesus. That's those are those times, those dark times, but they're somehow filled with joy. I know exactly what that's all about. It's like when you look back at it, it's like I wasn't happy then. I was depressed because, of my living situation. I'm only saying that because I've been through the same kind of things. Is that a bird that just fell? No, it was a leaf. And yeah, I've had those like moments. I have good memories in that time in those times, but looking back on it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, how did I live that way? You know what I mean? Now with like, having hot water, AC, stuff like that, like these like basic luxuries, you know what I mean? But yeah, bet you have stellar stories, Bronx. Exactly. That's the other thing. You have stories for days. That's what makes people interesting, is having those stories and being that way. So this last weekend was Free RPG Day. I'm sure you guys know all about that. Um, Unfortunately, every year Free RPG Day sits directly on my wife's birthday, which is June 25th. So I cannot participate in anything ever for the rest of my life because I do love my wife. You might see me clap. That's because I'm trying to kill like tiny mosquitoes that have been fucking eating me all day. So if you see me clapping like a weirdo, it's because I'm trying to defend myself from mosquitoes. But yeah, Free RPG Day is June 25th. Yep, Mr. Fogel. And most of the companies do something for it. Artel Saurian released a free RPG primer. So it's basically Cyberpunk Red Rules, but it's free. And it has like all the basic rules where you could just get into playing it, but it's not the whole core rule book. I think it's really cool. I wasn't sure if my local store was going to get it, and they said, yeah, we got 3 copies, only 3 copies. So unfortunately, while that's a low number, it is cool that they got something like that. Will someone please ping me next year so I don't miss it? Just mark your calendar. June 25th every year is going to be Free RPG Day. It sat on a Friday. My local shop had an amazing day. They had like painting tutorials, free games. One of my buddies ran Cyberpunk Red. Dustin from Under the Crimson Sky, he plays F-150. He ran Cyberpunk Red, and he watched a bunch of my videos. He's like, yeah, your videos helped me out a lot. And he was able to run it, and it got like local interest. There's people that are like super interested in Cyberpunk Red because of Free RPG Day. So I would say that's a success in my book, right? Also, this angle's like really weird, but the phone is like sitting and it's not moving, so it's working out. Glad I could finally catch a live stream. That's right, Nimbas. Good to see you. Bronx says, yeah, I have a ton of stories. I basically was living the Edge Runner life back in the late 90s. Yeah, cube motels and shit like that. Yeah, I get it, man. Well, originally I was going to bring a piece of literature and talk about it, but I forgot it, so I really apologize. I was going to bring the data pack, the Cyberpunk Red data pack, because there are some one-shot adventures in there, and I was going to expand on them. So I will be doing that for like a future video. So stay tuned for that. But other than that, how about the announcement that we're going to be getting Tales from the Red? That's insane. It's looks like it's a bunch of adventures put together, some lore bits. I don't know if it's going to be similar to the data pack. I don't know anything about it. Anything that I ever learn about the books, like you guys, even though I have like a good connection with Artel Saurian, I kind of don't want to know anything because I'm not a leaky kind of person. Like I don't like leaks. I don't like spoilers. I like to be surprised. I'm willing to wait. I'm patient. So I don't really like bug them for information that I can like pass on to the community. You know what I mean? So I had no idea about that book. I had some idea about it, but I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know when it was going to release. I didn't know its contents. The gist of it was, I think they told me, James or Jay told me, like, yeah, we're working on like an adventure book. So that's basically it. Um, I know as much as you guys know, so that's it. We're a niche community. We're small, so it's fun to be surprised and have a good time. Let me sip this water. But yeah, anyway, I hope you guys have been having wonderful games. I'd love to hear about them. Sound off in the comments. Let me know in the chat. Let me know about your games. If there's anything that you guys want to discuss, any questions you have, I'm more than happy to answer any questions with my experience and my insight. And there's a bunch of awesome people in this chat as well that will be able to give you some insight too. So, with that being said, I was gonna say something else, and it just fucking flew out of my mind right now. Oh yes, that's right. Tips for Aikido, need rules help. Okay, I'll get to that right now. First, I wanted to ask you guys what your opinion is. I wanted to expand my content on my YouTube, and I realized that there's a little bit of a gap in my content, and I think that it would be interesting to be able to add to it. So in addition to my regular content, which is like my podcast, interviews, regular videos, the normal stuff that I make, even this like live chat stuff, I was thinking of reacting to tabletop RPG videos. I know that the reacting stuff. Would you consider doing Warhammer in a car? Yeah, I'm sure I will one day. But if there's any cool tabletop RPG videos that you guys want me to take a look at and react to, I will be doing something like that in the future. There's a lot of really awesome content creators out there that have both inspired me and I've become good friends with, that are really awesome, and they make really good content. So I thought it would be cool to share their content, give my insight on it, and talk about them. You know what I mean? So so think about that. Stay tuned for that in the future. But now let's answer some questions, because I'm seeing that some questions are being populated here. Mr. Skull Baby says, I need to figure out martial arts Aikido for my new solo character that joined my campaign. Tips for Aikido, need rules help. Unfortunately, I don't have the book on me, so if you can, give me the gist of what the benefits of Aikido are, and I'll tell you what I think the best kind of application for that is. The martial arts in the book are really interesting. The main reason I would ever take martial arts isn't for their special moves, but it is for the fact that you get to ignore half armor with unarmed strikes. And as you guys know, concealing your weapon is really important in Cyberpunk. Well, you don't have to conceal your fists, you know? You just walk around with them, and there's no way for anybody to know that you're some kind of martial arts master. So that's a crazy advantage. I'm back. But yeah, but that's pretty much it. Um, so let me know what information you have on that. Mika says, Hi, John. Happy to catch your stream again. I have an idea for a campaign, a nomad caravan traveling from point A to B in Vane on Oregon Trail or Banner Saga. Oh, yeah, that's really awesome. That's a great idea. You could introduce really cool mechanics like repairing the vehicle, stopping for supplies, and stuff like that. That's the good stuff. I'll just have to read up, I guess. Oh yeah, I don't know anything about it off the top of my head. Sorry, Mr. Skull Baby. I really don't. Um, I would have to read up on it as well. So yeah, no, that idea is really fun. I love the idea of a caravan. You guys are getting in a vehicle, you're going across the country, and you're looking for supplies, and you're running into weirdos on the way, right? I would recommend to you to purchase a book called two books, but mainly one book that you need is called Land of the Free. It is the sequel to a book called Home of the Brave. They're both Cyberpunk 2020 supplements, but the reason I recommend it is because Land of the Free is basically that. It's a Cyberpunk 2020 campaign that starts from Night City, and I believe it ends in New York, or it could be the other way around. I don't remember. But it's a cross country adventure. You meet people, you run into things, and Home of the Brave tells you about everything that's going on in the United States. So the two books together, even the covers look the same. Like it's one, you put the two covers together and they match. You know what I mean? So Land of the Free, Home of the Brave. Those are the two books that I would recommend you get. You'll get some really cool ideas from there. As far as introducing like mechanics, survival mechanics are important. I wouldn't try to video gamify it. You know, I think our first initial thought is to like add a stamina bar and say if you eat food then you get +2 to blah blah blah. Just keep that stuff out of there. Keep it narrative, in my opinion. Just think to yourself like, okay, you guys have been out for like 6-7 hours. You need to find something to eat. You guys have been adventuring for about 15 hours, so you're getting tired. You're gonna have to take like a resist torture drugs test to continue on, unless you want to actually take a nap and go to sleep. So, stream open yet? Is it not working? Are you guys? Am I live? Am I live, guys? Did anything mess up? Can you let me know? Domri says stream open yet. Yes, you are. Okay, good. All right. That confused me. But yeah, good luck with that. Keep me updated. I would love to know how that's going. And I would love to offer any insight and help that I can. Corn Beef Boy, would you consider doing Warhammer in a car? Of course. I'll do it. I'll do it sometime. I will say, if you do want to follow me for Warhammer content, I actually post Warhammer content on my TikTok. The reason I don't do it on YouTube is because I don't feel connected to YouTube in that way with Warhammer. I feel like my YouTube is strictly for... Is there a fire over there? My YouTube is strictly for Cyberpunk. I don't want to hijack this channel and start posting Warhammer content. At least not now. Maybe in the near future, who knows? Like, I'll never say never, but I'm not really focusing any Warhammer content on my YouTube. But on TikTok, I'm posting a lot of stuff for Warhammer. So if you guys... And I can go live on there too. So I considered actually doing that recently. So I might go live on my TikTok about Warhammer stuff. And Domri, yeah, for sure. If you have any weird rule things, let me know. I'll answer whatever I can to the best of my ability. All right, Nimbos says, I ran Cyberpunk Red for free RPG day and had at least 5 players. The easy mode module went completely off rails during the first ambush. They ran away and I had to do a car combat sequence with cops. Going off the rails is like the best part of Cyberpunk, because in other RPGs, going off the rails is very difficult. And sometimes it can be actually considered like, you're that player, you're that guy that's trying to derail the story. And it can be looked at as adversarial. So like, for example, you're in D&D and you're supposed to go to a dungeon and kill the boss and loot the dungeon. And your players decide, why don't we just burn the dungeon to the ground and see what happens? Well, that might ruin all your plans. The game master might get some kind of ego about it. But in Cyberpunk, that kind of out-of-the-box thinking is exactly what makes it a good RPG. So I always love introducing obstacles to my players and letting them figure out exactly how they're going to do it with their own player agency and freedom. And usually the results are really awesome. So that's what I love about Cyberpunk. And I'm glad that you guys had a good game. I hope it was a good game. It sounds like it was. So, yeah. Don't you already do Warhammer in a car? Do I? I don't know if I do. Oh, yeah, well, I guess with this, I talk about Warhammer all the time. I try to minimize it. I'm completely in the dark. I had no idea he was taking Aikido until he gave me his character sheet for the first session. Yeah, definitely take a read on it, see what it's all about, and see just see the special move for Aikido and see what triggers it, and just keep it in mind. You know, I don't know what the special move is for Aikido. I think it might be a throw or something like that. So you know, try to figure that out. I always like, I always keep it like open for my players to try to figure out what they want to do. But if hold on one second, guys. This guy's talking to me. Yes, sir. Can I help you? I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what that guy was saying. He was speaking, sounds like Korean to me. And I'm not sure what he was trying to say. So we'll just leave it at that. Sorry. Here we go. Yo, John, I'd love to pick your brain. Oh, yeah, that's where we are. What's your consensus on text fabricating Nomad vehicle upgrades? I've heard a lot of mixed views on it and curious about what you think. As far as the fabrication and stuff with Nomads, I feel like it should be okay. Okay, this guy, I have no idea what he's trying to tell me. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. What's the problem? So confused, dude. He's like staring at me, but he won't tell me what's the issue. I'm parked on a... I'm not parked illegally or anything. It's very strange. Anyway, so when it comes to techs and what they can and can't do, I usually just let... I let common sense take hold. You know what I mean? I look at the universe. I look at the world. I don't forget. I don't like worry too much. He's a crazy homeless guy. Sorry, he's just being weird. All right. Anyway, so yeah, when it comes to, sorry, that just distracted the shit out of me. I thought it was the guy that lives here, but it was just like some crazy homeless guy just like talking to me. Anyway, LA baby. I am in a residential neighborhood. That's why I asked him if everything was okay. I was like, maybe this guy owns this house that I'm in front of and he wants to know what the hell's going on. And it's literally, it is a scaver, dude. He's literally a scaver. Anyway, and that doesn't speak English. So anyway, when it comes to fabrication and stuff that text can do, even in the book itself, rules as written, it says like, hey, be careful, you can break the game, you know? There's a lot of leeway here. There's a lot of opportunity for creativity. So just be careful. And that's basically the only rule I go by. Anything else, I don't really care too much about the mechanics. If it makes sense in the world, if it makes sense logically, then I give my players the opportunity to try to figure it out. You know what I mean? So if my tech is saying like, hey, I want to help this nomad get upgrades for their vehicle, there are things that you can do. I believe there's a section in the book that tells you how much it would be to like buy it or make it. I don't know exactly what the numbers are on that, but I believe that's there to balance things out. So I think the reason there's like, from what I understand, a nomad has a far easier time upgrading their vehicle than a tech would have upgrading that same vehicle. The reason for that is it makes the nomad more important in their role, and it makes them list them as luxury and super luxury on open market. Yeah, so that's all balance. You know what I mean? That's all Artel Sorian looking at the numbers and trying to figure out what they can do to balance the game, you know, and making sure that the nomad feels like it's a useful thing. It has one thing that it's good at. It has vehicles and upgrading vehicles and custom vehicles. So like, if the tech can do all the things that a nomad can do, so why make a nomad? You know what I mean? That's the idea behind the balance changes. But I think that most people make techs or nomads not for the mechanics, but for the flavor of it. Like a tech and a nomad, they can both lead similar kinds of lives. But if I'm want to be a nomad, it's because I have the idea where like I'm part of a clan, I'm part of a family. We live out in the wilderness. We live away from the city. We don't abide by any government laws and rules. Uh-oh, we got sexy bots in chat. Here they are. I don't think we have any. But if there's any mods, please ban this. What the fuck are those emojis? This is fucking nuts, dude. Let's see. Pause user in timeout. Alright, no whores real. So fucking crazy, dude. What the fuck is going on? This is wild, dude. Spam report. Okay. Joy toys and scavers galore today. I know, what the fuck is going on? So yeah, anyway, to answer your question, I would say I would take it on a case by case issue. I would make sure that it's logical. One of the things that I've talked about in my chats is I don't like that vehicles are so expensive. I understand if some of them are expensive because they're luxury and they're hard to find, but like a normal like small vehicle with like a shitty engine that's used and like 20 years old, those have to be bountiful. You know what I mean? Um, and I understand that Cyberpunk Red is a game of scarcity, but that's not the Cyberpunk that I enjoy playing. I enjoy playing a Cyberpunk world akin to 2020 and 2077, where there's vehicles, there's corporations, there's jobs, there's different castes of society, hierarchies of society, and the fact that my players don't have access to vehicles takes me out of the game that I want to play. So I always make sure that there are some kind of vehicles that they can have access to. So there's that. Let's move on to Mika here, all to count. Oh, interesting. So yeah, the caravan campaign would emphasize survival, resource management, and good quality equipment would be rare. And yeah, you have to be careful not being like a video game. And thanks for the book suggestions. Yeah, no problem. I've personally made the mistake of trying to add mechanics to a game that are like video gamey mechanics. For example, my open road mechanics. I don't know if you guys have heard of that before, but it's basically like this mini game that I created for traveling on the open road in your Cyberpunk games. And in there, I had stuff um, like supplies, repair kits, and even stuff like, you know, let's say the players like would have conversations with each other and tell each other stories, and I would give you like +2 to your willpower during that journey or something like that. I thought that it would be fun to add like these interesting mechanics, but really I never got to use them correctly. They were not balanced well, and they made the game feel video gamey. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel correct. So I just like completely chopped all that stuff out, and now it's more narrative driven. It's more of like suggesting like this is happening and this is happening, you fill in the blanks, and that narrative drive makes the game a lot more interesting. So I would mainly focus on being making sure that the adventure is a narrative adventure, and it's very easy to put the story on rails if you're doing like some kind of cross country caravan campaign, because literally you're on a rail. The whole campaign is on a rail. But that doesn't mean that you can't be creative and give your players the ability to have side routes, turn around, go back the way they came, go up and down, like let go of their vehicle and go on foot in the wilderness, blah blah blah. All these things are important, you know what I mean? So I would keep all that stuff in mind. Nimba said everyone said they had a fun time in the session I ran. I was sweating near the end because almost all of it was improv. If everybody had a good time, then you had a successful game, and good job. I commend you. IRL booster gangers gotta watch out. Let's see. No Name says, one thing that drives me crazy about Cyberpunk is that playing guitar and drawing is covered by tech stat, which makes me want to bash my head against the wall. Yeah, so the tech stat covers a technical skill. So it's not just the idea of being able to work with electronics and technology. It's also relies on technique. So that's where it's coming from, and I get that it's its own skill for technical knowledge of things. You can argue that playing the guitar requires reflexes or dexterity, which you would be correct, but I don't think that it would fit in those categories because as good as your dexterity can be, you're only good at playing an instrument with more time practiced. And that's the same thing that goes for electricians, roofers, or mechanics. All of these people, while they do need good dexterity, they need strength, they need endurance, and all these things to get through their job. Their expertise comes from their technical knowledge that takes time. So the tech stat is basically translating the time spent to master the thing that you're good at technically. So that's where I think it makes sense. But, to each their own opinion. You are parts, my friend. He wants to sell you parts. Let's see here. Sounds like it's fair to have the tech make the upgrade, but not apply the upgrade. I would let them apply upgrades as well. Sorry about that, guys. I would allow the tech to apply upgrades as well. I wouldn't hold them back from stuff like that. Just think logically. Like if a tech can make a piece of upgrade, why wouldn't they be able to apply it? You know what I mean? What's the logic behind that? If I can make a car part, why wouldn't I be able to install it? That it just doesn't logically make sense to me that you can fabricate a car part but you can't install it. You know, just for the sake of game design or game balance. Definitely make your players work for things. So if they want to like fabricate, they need to find the materials, they need to make the materials, and then they need to put it together. So they need time, energy, and resources. Those are the three things that they need to expend to be able to do the things that you want them to do. So nothing is free. You're not giving them anything for free, and they're working for it. When a nomad doesn't have to work for it, they basically they get use their IP points, they improve their character, and boom. Ooh, I have to award IP to the guys. I totally forgot. And then they use that to basically just get armor on their vehicle without having to think about it. But a tech will have to put time, energy, and resources into doing something that a nomad can do inherently, right? I think that's balanced. I think that makes sense logically, and I think that the player would have no problem with that as well. So if we're all happy and it seems like it's balanced, then it's likely going to be fine. You know what I mean? And by the way, a vehicle having like a bunch of upgrades on it doesn't mean shit when you need to go into an Arasaka cafe and talk to a corporate goon and have a conversation with him on how you're going to partner together to take down Militech. That has your vehicle's in the parking lot and it's parked, okay? It has nothing to do with that kind of scenario. So having like this amazingly decked out vehicle is only going to be cool sometimes. Most of the time it's going to mean nothing. That's the other thing that I've learned from like, homebrew and playing Cyberpunk on the whim and just like letting things go is there isn't usually one thing that causes the game to break or causes the immersion to break. It's a series of things. It's letting things go constantly, letting everything happen, and not giving any pushback to the players. You know what I mean? You got to give a little bit of pushback, but you also have to be able to let them have some fun. So if you guys are like worried, like, oh man, this might break the game, most of the time it takes more than just one little change to break the game like that. Even one major change is not going to break the game in my experience. It takes a series of things to happen. All right. Uh, Awesome. It was more for the balance of a tech nomad multi-role. Moto points plus maker points can get to like base 22. Tech skill, it's mental. Cheers, bud. Yeah, no problem. You got it. I hope it works out for you. Groovy Gerbil says black chrome, question mark, 3 question marks. I have no idea, dude. It's supposed to come out. We just have no idea when it's going to come out, and I am not privy to that information. Captain Perfect. Would you... Yeah, perfect. Would you have any GM tips if any player picks a media role? I am afraid that I'm not good enough to come up enough story and news to satisfy the player. The role is so different compared to others. You're absolutely right. It is different. I personally think the media role can do with a little bit of an overhaul. Not a complete overhaul, but maybe a supplement in the future will enhance the role. I do believe it is the least picked role in Cyberpunk Red for the exact reason that you're talking about. They've been edging us for a year. I know, but you know, they're working on all kinds of things. That Tales from the Red looks really cool. But I digress. So the media, to give you guys a refresher on what the media does, the media has this special ability called rumors. And basically, what it means is they always have a connection to some sort of source, whether it's an NPC, a database, or something. They have some kind of access to a source that will give them a major clue into a plot point of the campaign arc. Now, that is like one of the vaguest player abilities that I've ever heard in my life. And I think that's why a lot of players are like, well, I don't know if this even matters. If I know that my game master is a master storyteller and always has like these juicy plot points with twists and turns and all kinds of crazy shit going on, then I would know like, oh man, if I played a media in his game, then that's probably going to be a really fucking cool game, you know, because he's such a master storyteller. But if I don't know the game master, I don't know what kind of games they play, and because Cyberpunk Red is designed as a gig-based game, where you basically do a series of gigs, you do your mission, you get back, you get paid, you get IP, and you rinse and repeat, and you keep doing that. That's why it's so good for convention games and one-shots, because it's basically built for one-shots. You can still do campaigns. I've been doing campaigns. But where it shines the most, I believe, is like convention games and one-shot campaigns and stuff like that. That's why I think we see a lot of Cyberpunk Red games have one-shots, people enjoy it, and then they kind of let it go. That's why the media is far better for a long-term campaign rather than a one-shot campaign. I've ran a one-shot with a media in it, and it was kind of meh. You know what I mean? He had a rumor. It helped with the plot point, but it wasn't anything that the players couldn't figure out themselves. You know what I mean? I basically gave them a little bit of a freebie because they had a media, and when they could have just accessed that information with a little bit more of role play, which, hey, by the way, that's a lot more fun than just giving it to them, you know? So, what do I recommend with the media? Because the media is so focused on the narrative side of the game, which is that it assumes that there's a plot and there are plot points, and that your players will have to discover these plot points to resolve it. So it is assuming that all that is in place, and you're giving the media a piece of the puzzle, basically. That's like their special ability. I would focus more on the idea of what makes them the type of media that they are. Focus on that narrative aspect of them. For example, if they're the typical media, which is like a news reporter, what news company do they work for? How high up in the organization are they? Do they have rivals? Are they like, do they toe the company line, or are they kind of a rebel? And then I would focus on who the person is that is giving them resources. Is it an informant? Is it a street level rat? that basically, because he's always on the street, he knows what's going on? Is it an actual database that only they have access to, or very limited amount of people have access to? So they actually have to like go to this database, and maybe they're part of some kind of like secret guild that has access to this database. That's what will make the media interesting. And instead of giving them just like one piece of the plot point, I would try to, much like the Fixer, I would try to wrap the entire campaign around this media and what access they have. Why are they motivated to be a part of this party? Why are they motivated to be trying to resolve this plot point? And all that has to do with the media's backstory. I would focus heavily on that. I would focus on backstory, what their motivations are as a media. Are they out there trying to find that one story to bring things down? Oh, and I forgot. Another thing that the media does is they gather evidence, significant evidence, I believe it's called, something like that. And after they gather enough pieces of evidence, I think it's like one, two, or three. After they get that much evidence, and they can bring down the big bad guy. Super vague, super situational. Maybe I don't have a big bad guy. Maybe that's not how my campaign arc is designed. Maybe that's not my idea of what I would want my media to do. Like, it might not make sense, you know what I mean? Like, there's no larger organization to bring down. You know what I mean? It might be a series of organizations working in tandem with each other. Like, for example, let's take Game of Thrones, right? There isn't like really one faction that is causing all the problems. It's a bunch of factions and their interactions with each other that are causing problems within each other. But their problems are specific to each other. So it's not just about like killing all the White Walkers. Like, okay, you kill all the White Walkers, but there's still the dragons, there's still the kingdoms, there's still the bitter bickering. There's the North, there's the South, there's the this and that. There's the Eastern countries that are like trying to stay away from all the kingdoms. So like, those kinds of interpersonal things are what makes stories great. It's not just about one big bad guy at the end. Like I said, convention game, that's perfect. For a one-shot campaign, one big bad guy is like perfect. It makes sense. But if you want to do like a big campaign with all these factions and all these things that are going on, a media can't focus on just one guy. The media focuses on the story that will get them ahead, or the story that will achieve their goals. So there's something that they're like obsessed about. There's something that they want to find out. Like, for example, that documentary Blackfish about SeaWorld and the killer whales. That documentary focuses on a multitude of things. It's not just SeaWorld that's the bad guy. That they are the bad guy. But there's also like all the things that were put in place to allow them to operate that the way that they're operating. You know what I mean? A lot of people like turned their gaze from what they were doing to allow them to do the things that they're doing. SeaWorld didn't get to where it was on its own. You know what I mean? People helped them out. And it also like compounds the idea of like how we don't give a shit about our environment. You know what I mean? And we just let things like that happen. So that the person that made that documentary, they're obsessed with that specific subject. So that's what I would try to focus on with the media, is try to figure out what specific subject they're focused on. And once you know that, you know how to weave it into your campaign. You know how to make it a part of your campaign. And it also tells you why the media is motivated to be a part of the campaign in the first place. The reason they're helping the party and the various party members is because they have a vested interest in also bringing down the organizations that are involved with the scandal, because that's their obsession. The scandal is their obsession. So it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's why they're a part of that party. All right, so I hope that was enough for you guys on the media role, Captain Perfect. I hope that gave you all the information you needed. I know it was long and winded, But I hope you enjoyed that. Wow, that was a long answer. Thanks, man. Yeah, no problem. You're because honestly, it's a topic of its own. I guarantee you, without knowing any statistics, that the media is the least chosen role in Cyberpunk Red. It's definitely at the bottom, and that's because of its mechanic. It's because of the vagary of it, and I think it kind of contradicts the design of Cyberpunk Red, which is designed as a one-shot system. It's designed to pick up and play. It doesn't mean that you can't do long form campaigns, which is exactly what I'm doing. On the contrary, you can do that no problem. You know what I mean? It's not like it hinders you from doing that. But where the game like truly shines is in that. In like, hey, have you ever played Cyberpunk before? No. All right, we'll sit down, we'll roll a character in less than 30 minutes and we'll play, and by 4 hours from now we'll have resolved it. You know what I mean? That's what Cyberpunk Red is. We'll go somewhere, we'll talk to a guy, he'll give you a mission, we'll do the mission, we'll come back, you'll get paid, you'll get improvement points, and the next time you do the thing that you do, you have better loot and more experience, and you'll hopefully get paid better. That's what it is. That's where Cyberpunk Red's loop shines. It has a loop. James Hutt has admitted that it has a loop. He said that's part of its design is to have that loop. So that's why the media in general is not always going to like gathering all that evidence is not conducive with running one shots. So I hope that, that in the future they think about that for a supplement. Would you think the city, Nimbus says, would you think the city net that was given by Ziggurat has its own net architecture? Um, yeah, maybe the city net has like a central hub. That makes sense. Like for it to have like a central server room that runs all of its internet from. Uh, but I think that it should be basically impenetrable. I think it should be filled with net runners that just rotate throughout it. It should have demons within it too. It should have all the craziest black ice programs that you can think of. And the reason it has all that stuff is because they have a vested interest in the city net staying up. If it's in Night City, there's millions of people there. They're all using it. They're all connected to it. Imagine how powerful the internet is, and if there was any vulnerability to like access it and shut it off or get like really important information, security is really important. So I would think that Ziggurat, while they do spend a lot of money on infrastructure, they probably spent the same amount of money or more on their own cybersecurity. So while I would give them the ability to have a net architecture, it should be the like most impenetrable fortress that a net runner could ever go through. And it's like certain death if they go alone. They would have to go with a giant group of net runners and in a coordinated attack try to bring it down. Killing the power grid shouldn't kill it. There should be like alternate power. There should be generators, all kinds of stuff to keep the power, make sure that the net architecture stays on. So it would be it would be like the most ultimate net architecture that you could ever be a part of. So that's my suggestion. Also, I would like to mention if you're doing a campaign like mine where it's multiple cities, it's not just Night City. In my campaign, there's a bunch of cities. They're all different. Some of them have internet, some of them don't, and it doesn't mean that they're all connected to each other. Like the other day, on Monday, one of my players was like, "Let me know when I can get on the phone and call somebody," and I had to tell him like, "Hey, dude, there's no cell phones. There's no AT&T. There's no T-Mobile. There's no Verizon. He was out in the wilderness, like there's nothing out here. This is Cyberpunk Red. If you want to talk to somebody, you're going to have to either send them a letter, and hopefully the person that sends it to them gets it there, which is a job in itself, and there's experts in that. Think of a mailman. Oh, what was that movie? There was a mailman movie with Kevin Costner. where he basically goes around on horseback and like delivers information. I think that's what it was. Think of that. That's what it is. It's like people, they specialize in it. So it's like I get with like five of my friends and say, "Hey, I got a job. Somebody wants to deliver a package to Las Vegas from Night City. So we got to take it, and I need guns with me just in case something goes down. This is the payday." You know what I mean? So it's way more expensive to get important packages across, but it's also, it leaves room for that kind of job to be available to people. Um, but other than that, if you're, I like to say, like, if you're within a city and you want to make a phone call within the city has its own phone services, has its own internet, blah, blah, blah. You can do that while you're within the city. Postman, yeah, that's what it was called, right? So round the clock Netrunner and Netwatch security, 2 to 3 black eyes per floor, high end DV with passwords and whatnot, and very limited access points for Ziggurat CityNet. Yeah, I would even do more than that. 2 or 3 Netrunners per the, you know, 2 or 3 black eyes per floor is too low. It should be like 5, and they should all be liches and dragons and giants, and there should be round the clock net runners, 24 hours. There should be armed guards because they have the money for it. You know, the whole city uses it. The whole city uses the service. Everybody pays a subscription fee. The city pays them to also make sure that this infrastructure stays on. So they might be protected by the Night City Police Department too. You know what I mean? They might have a vested interest in making sure that everything stays working. You know what I mean? So that's what I would recommend. I would recommend that you guys keep that in mind when it comes to Ziggurat CityNet. All right. Any other questions? You guys let me know. That whole idea of the postman delivering packages and stuff like that is a new thing for Cyberpunk Red. In Cyberpunk 2020, there was an internet. The internet worked just like the internet we know today. There's email, there's all that stuff. If you need information to get out, there was cell phone services, so or satellite phone, whatever. I think it was called like sat phone or something like that. That they kind of like missed the cell phone mark a little bit with 2020. You know, obviously, hindsight 2020. How would they know? Hindsight 2020, Cyberpunk 2020. Anyway, how would they know, right? So the idea that in Cyberpunk Red all that stuff is gone, I think is really interesting. It adds a whole new aspect to the game. And in my universe, there's a whole group of people that will take packages from one place to another for a fee. You know what I mean? Dad joke alert. So it introduces like really cool aspects to the game, in my opinion. All right. Any more questions, guys? If not, I will end this live chat. I really enjoy doing this. It's fun when mosquitoes aren't eating me alive. I'm literally just getting eaten alive, like I'm itching all over the place. I don't understand, dude. Why are they out? It's so hot. Aren't sat phones the only phones that work in the Badlands? And even still, that's a maybe. Yeah, in one question, how are you, man? How are you, man? Oh, I'm doing. How are you, man? I was like, damn, dude. I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Um, yeah, I couldn't be better, man. Loving life right now. Aren't sat phones, like you said, in the Badlands, and even still, that's a maybe. Yeah, because they rely on satellites, and it's not like satellites are a big thing. Oh my God, really? Again? Fuck off. Report. Pornography. How is this possible? I reported you. Away. Remove. Anyway, Bronx, I'm gonna make you a mod. Add moderator. I'm gonna make you a mod so you can help me out if you don't mind. Just ban and mute and delete or whatever. Report, whatever you can do. It doesn't even make sense. It's just like emojis. Naked HD XYZ. I mean, Pornhub exists. We all know Pornhub exists. Why would anyone go to your fucking crazy website? It's not like porn is hard to find on the internet. Anyway, Yeah, so satellites are not like a prevalent thing in Cyberpunk Red for two reasons. One, obviously resources. People don't have resources for that. You need to send a rocket into space. You need to have a team that can do it, calculations, orbit, blah, blah, blah. And the second thing is a group of people called the High Riders. The High Riders, they're still charging me for Resident Link, these motherfuckers. Sorry. The High Riders are a group of people that live in orbit. They were there working as like scavengers, basically. And then they rose up and decided, you know what? We don't have to listen to anything that these surface dwellers are telling us. We're up here. We have all the power. All we have to do is literally drop a rock on the ground, and we basically drop a nuke. That's what it is. They did do that. I think they did it to Detroit. I think they dropped a rock on Detroit, and it caused like a cataclysmic event. And that was like their warning shot. So like the High Riders, if you can't just put a satellite in space without the High Riders seeing it, and they might decide like, oh no, we don't want you to have a satellite, Arasaka. We don't want Militech to have a satellite. We don't like the idea of them having a satellite. You know what I mean? So they could just like knock it out of the sky. And so that it makes sat phones really difficult to use. I would say that companies like Arasaka and Militech and these big names, they're like the only ones that would have the resources. And if they maybe have a deal with the high riders, then they can maybe make it work. So I don't think it's impossible, but I think that those are like the two biggest objections against having satellites in orbit. I would definitely work that out in your homebrew lore before having it a thing. One last question before I go. Captain Perfect says, do you have any recommendations for supplement materials, cyberware, and gear as there's no official expansions for the game? Yeah, for sure, man. There's a lot of gear and cyberware in the 2020 supplements. I'll rattle off some right now. The Chromebooks is a good one. There's four of them, four Chromebooks. One of them has my favorite piece of artwork. And so there's the four Chromebooks. There's Black Hand's Guide to the Street. That is, or Black Hand's Guide, I think. Street. It's Morgan Black Hand's Guide or something like that. It has a bunch of guns in there. Home of the Brave has like military stuff, military vehicles, military weapons, standard issue military stuff. I'm trying to think what else. Those are like the main three for gear and cyberware. There's some other ones in other supplements. Pacific Rim has stuff too. It has mechs and stuff like that, I think. Japan mechs, obviously. I'm trying to think if there's anything else specifically that I think from those source books. Oh, the Protect and Serve has police stuff if you want to talk about like find out police equipment. Wildside has street level stuff, street level drugs. Yeah, but that I would recommend those. So any of those books, the ones I mentioned first are like the top, the Chromebooks and the Black Hands, are the top ones, I would say, for gear and cyberware. So I hope that helps. Homebrew goes as well. I hope Cyberpunk Red gets Black Chrome soon. Yeah, that's true. I hope so too. I hope so too, man. Hopefully we'll get it soon. It'll be in our hands and we can enjoy it. But you know what, man? I'll say I've been having a good time homebrewing my own items. I've been introducing +1, +2, +3 damage to weapons and adding like special rules to them, much to the kin of like the exotics that you see in the DLCs and stuff like that. Got to read on the 2020 conversion rules then. The thing about it is it's not too difficult to convert gear and items from 2020 to red. There's a DLC, one of the first ones called Old Guns Never Die, where they basically give you a guide on how you can convert 2020 guns to red. And it's a very simple formula. Like you would look at the gun after looking at what they recommend to do, you would look at items and you can tell from a glance like, oh yeah, in red it would have these easy stats. You know what I mean? So with that in mind, Once you read that DLC, I think it'll make it a lot easier for you to try to figure out how to convert gear and cyberware and guns and stuff like that into Cyberpunk Red. It's really not that difficult. It's basically the same. The only thing is, like, there are certain guns in 2020 that do, like, I think there's one that does like 3d10 damage. There's some guns that do like 4d6 plus 2, and they have a rate of fire of like 30 rounds and stuff like that. And like red, that's just not what goes on in red. But it doesn't mean that you can't move things around a little bit and bring it to like a similar vein. Like 3d10 is what? 3 minimum, 30 maximum. So what is that? 5d6. It's basically 5d6, which is 5 minimum, 30 maximum. So you up the minimum a little bit, but then again, then it just feels like an assault rifle round, which doesn't feel special. And I think the 3d10 was supposed to feel special. So I would do 5d6 plus 3 and plus 1 to hit or something like that, or a blade's armor by 2, just to make it a little bit spicier, just to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm definitely going to be making a homebrew video soon, so stay tuned for that. That's my next project that I'm working on, is making a video on all my homebrew techniques for Cyberpunk Red. So there's that. All right. All right, guys. I think that's about it. I really appreciate you guys being a part of the stream. As always, I love doing these chats with you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I hope you guys enjoy your Cyberpunk games. Gotta catch these live streams again. Love how casual it is while you're sitting in a car. Yeah, I hope it's not too low quality and low effort for you guys. I'm just trying to offer my insight. I wish I had a better backdrop and there weren't homeless. I'm getting phone calls, so it's perfect time. All right. Thank you all for the support. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.